What would you do if one kind decision put your child at risk? This is a story of a struggling single mother who stopped to help a stranger, never knowing that choice would drag her into a world of power, pressure, and fear. By the end of this video, you'll understand why kindness isn't always rewarded, but why it still matters. Before we begin, like the video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and tell me in the comments, would you have stopped? The shout came from behind her, sharp and angry. "Madam, you can't just leave her like that." Amara froze mid-step. Her heart was already racing from running late, her phone buzzing in her pocket with missed calls from her child's caregiver. She turned slowly, dread curling in her stomach, and saw the small crowd that had formed on the sidewalk. In the middle of them was the old woman. She was on her knees now, palms pressed to concrete, breathing hard like each breath hurt. Her grocery bag lay tipped over beside her, oranges rolling into the gutter. Amara swallowed. I didn't leave her," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "I was just—" "Then why are you walking away?" Another voice snapped. The accusation burned. Amara looked down at her worn shoes, then back at the old woman. She hadn't meant to stop. She couldn't afford to stop. Every minute she delayed meant trouble, late pickup fees, angry messages, another reminder that being poor meant having no margin for kindness. "I asked if she was okay," Amara said. She said yes. That wasn't entirely true. The old woman hadn't answered at all. She had only looked at Amara with cloudy eyes and whispered something Amara hadn't understood. Now the old woman lifted her head slowly. Her hands were shaking. I don't know where I am," she murmured. The words landed like a punch. The crowd went quiet. Amara's chest tightened. She stepped closer without thinking, crouching down in front of her. "Ma'am," Amara said softly, "can you stand?" The old woman tried. She swayed immediately. "No," she whispered, shame flooding her face. "My legs, they won't listen to me." Someone scoffed. "Probably drunk." "She doesn't look drunk," Amara snapped, anger flaring despite her fear. She looked scared. The old woman's fingers clutched Amara's sleeve like a lifeline. "Please," she said, "don't go." That was it. That was the moment Amara knew she was trapped. Because once someone said please like that, once they held on like they were drowning, there was no turning away without losing something inside yourself. Amara exhaled shakily. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'm here." She stood and looked around. "Does anyone have water?" No one moved. Of course not. Amara pulled the half-full bottle from her bag. It was all she had left until morning. She unscrewed it and held it to the old woman's lips. "Small sips," she said, slowly. The old woman obeyed, her hands trembling so badly Amara had to steady the bottle. "What's your name?" Amara asked. The old woman blinked. I can't remember." That sent a chill through Amara's spine. "Do you have family?" she asked gently. The old woman frowned, confused. I was going somewhere." "Where?" "I don't know." The crowd began to thin, interest fading now that responsibility lingered. Someone muttered, "Call the police," and walked away. Amara's phone buzzed again. She pulled it out. "Caretaker, you're late again. I have to leave." Her throat tightened. "I'm sorry," Amara whispered to the screen. "Please, just 10 minutes." She looked at the old woman, then at the street. "Ma'am," Amara said, forcing steadiness into her voice, "we're going to get you somewhere safe." "Okay." The old woman nodded slowly. "Thank you, dear." Amara flagged down a cab with a desperation that bordered on panic. The driver leaned out. "Where to?" "The nearest clinic," Amara said. "Please." He hesitated, eyes flicking to the old woman. "I'll need payment up front." Of course he would. Amara's hand shook as she reached into her bag. She counted the money twice, her heart sinking when she realized what it meant. That was rent money. She handed it over anyway. Inside the cab, the old woman leaned against her, light as paper. "You're very kind," she murmured. Amara swallowed hard. "Just rest." At the clinic, everything happened fast and slow at the same time. Questions, Forms. Long looks from the nurse when Amara said she wasn't family. I'll stay, Amara said when they tried to usher her out, at least until she's seen. Hours later, the doctor finally nodded. She's dehydrated and disoriented. Possibly missed medication. We'll keep her overnight. Relief flooded Amara, so hard her knees almost buckled. The old woman reached for her hand again. What is your name, dear? Amara. She smiled faintly. Amara, she repeated, as if testing the sound. Thank you, Amara. Amara forced a smile back, then turned away before her tears could fall. She left the clinic exhausted, broke, and late. By the time she reached home, the caretaker was gone. Her child was asleep on the couch, tear tracks still visible on his cheeks. I'm sorry, Amara whispered, lifting him gently. I'm so sorry. She didn't sleep that night, not because of guilt, but because something deep in her chest wouldn't stop twisting, like a warning she didn't yet understand. 3 days later, Amara was fired without explanation. 5 days later, her landlord knocked on her door with an eviction notice. And a week later, a black car pulled up beside her on the street. The man who stepped out was dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than everything Amara owned. He looked at her like she was a problem that needed solving. Amara, he said calmly, we need to talk about the old woman you helped. And in that moment, Amara realized with a sinking heart that stopping on that street corner hadn't just changed the old woman's life. It had destroyed hers. Amara stared at the man in the suit, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. I don't know what you're talking about, she said carefully. The man didn't blink. You helped an elderly woman on Oak Ridge Street last Tuesday. You took her to a clinic. Amara's fingers curled around the strap of her bag. Yes. Is she okay? That depends, he replied. On you. Fear slid down her spine, cold and sharp. I didn't do anything wrong, Amara said quickly. I didn't take anything from her. I paid for the cab myself. I waited until the doctor saw her. I know, the man said. That single sentence unsettled her more than an accusation would have. Then why are you here? She asked. Because my employer wants answers. Your employer? Amara repeated. The man gestured toward the car. Please, get in. Amara took a step back. No. His jaw tightened. Ma'am, I'm trying to be polite. And I'm trying to get home to my child, she snapped. If you have something to say it here. The man studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Fine. My employer's grandmother went missing that day. She was found hours later at a clinic. You were listed as the person who brought her in. Amara blinked. Missing? Yes. Her stomach dropped. No one told me that. They wouldn't have, he replied coolly. You're not family. Something in his tone stung. So, what do you want from me? Amara asked, her voice trembling despite her effort to sound strong. To come in and explain your intentions. My intentions? Her voice cracked. I saw an old woman who couldn't stand. I helped her. That's it. That's not usually it, he said. Anger flared. Are you accusing me of something? I'm saying people don't do things for free, he replied. Especially people in your position. That hurt more than she expected. My position? Amara repeated softly. He glanced at her worn clothes, the tired lines on her face, the cheap phone in her hand. Yes. Her chest burned. I didn't ask her who she was. I didn't know she was anyone. She stopped herself, breathing hard. I just didn't want her to die on the street, she finished. Silence stretched between them. Finally, the man said, My employer will decide what happens next. And if I refuse? Amara asked. His gaze hardened. Then this becomes much more complicated. The black car drove away, leaving Amara shaking on the sidewalk. That night, she barely touched her food. Her child watched her with worried eyes. Mommy, he asked quietly, are we in trouble? She forced a smile. No, baby, we're okay. But she wasn't sure that was true. The next morning, she woke to a loud knock. When she opened the door, 2 men stood there. Amara Daniels? One asked. Yes. You're required to come with us." Her heart slammed against her ribs. For what? To answer some questions. I already answer questions. "This isn't a request," he said flatly. She looked back at her child, fear clawing at her throat. "I need call someone." "You can call later." She stepped outside on shaky legs. They didn't take her to a police station. They took her downtown. The building they led her into was massive, all glass and steel, towering over her like a warning. Inside, everything smelled expensive. They escorted her into a room with a long table and cold lighting. Minutes passed. Then the door opened. The man who walked in didn't look like a villain. He looked calm, controlled, powerful in a way that made the air feel thinner. He didn't sit right away. He studied her. "So," he said, "you're the woman who found my grandmother." Amara lifted her chin. "Yes. I'm Ethan Whitmore." The name meant nothing to her, but the way the room seemed to respond to it told her it should. "She told me nothing about you," he continued. "Not your last name. Not your address. Only that someone helped her." "I didn't ask questions," Amara said. She was scared. "Ethan finally Saturday, and yet you expect me to believe you did all of this out of kindness." "I don't expect you to believe anything," Amara replied, her voice shaking. "I know what I did." He leaned back, eyes sharp. "People lie." "So, do people with power?" She shot back before she could stop herself. The room went very still. Ethan's lips pressed together. "Careful. I'm not the one who dragged a stranger into a glass tower and treated her like a criminal," Amara said, tears burning behind her eyes. "You're acting like I planned this." "You had my grandmother in your care for hours," Ethan said. "You spent money you couldn't afford. You waited. Why?" "Because leaving her would have haunted me," Amara whispered. "Because I have a child, and I pray someone would stop for him if he was ever alone and afraid." Something flickered across Ethan's face. Gone in a second. "You're dismissed," he said abruptly. "What?" Amara asked. "Go home," he repeated. "For now." Relief washed over her. So suddenly she almost collapsed. But as she stood, Ethan added, "Don't mistake this for trust." She turned back. "Then what is it?" "A delay," he said, "until I know exactly who you are." Outside, the city felt louder, harsher. By the time she got home, there was a notice taped to her door. Final warning: pay or vacate. Her knees gave out. She slid down the wall, clutching the paper as tears spilled freely. "I was just trying to help," she sobbed. "I was just trying to help." And somewhere across the city, Ethan Whitmore watched security footage on a screen, his expression unreadable as he saw Amara kneeling on the pavement, holding his grandmother's trembling hands. For the first time, doubt crept in, but doubt wouldn't stop what was already set in motion. Amara didn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the glass tower, Ethan Whitmore's steady gaze, the way his voice had stripped her down without ever rising. By morning, her head throbbed and her hands shook as she packed her child's school bag. "Mommy," he said softly, "why are you crying?" She froze, then wiped her face quickly. "I'm not crying. I just didn't sleep well." He studied her the way children do when they know they're being lied to, but don't yet have the words to challenge it. "Will we have to move again?" he asked. Her chest tightened. "No," she said too fast. "No, sweetheart." But she didn't believe it herself. After she dropped him off, she went straight to the clinic. The nurse frowned when she saw Amara. "You're back." "I just want to check on the old woman," Amara said. "The one I brought in." The nurse hesitated. "Family only." "I know," Amara said quietly. "But I helped her. I just need to know if she's okay." The nurse sighed, softening. "She's stable. Her grandson arranged a private transfer." Amara's stomach clenched. "So she's safe?" "Yes." Relief flooded her, followed immediately by bitterness. "Safe, but at what cost?" As she turned to leave, two men stepped into her path. "Miss Daniels," one said, "you need to come with us." Her heart dropped. "Again? This won't take long." "That's what you said last time." They didn't respond. Back at the tower, Ethan waited. "You went to the clinic," he said without preamble. Amara stiffened. I was worried about her. You were told not to involve yourself. I was never told anything, she snapped. You don't get to decide when I stop caring. He studied her. You're persistent. I'm human, she replied. You should try it. Silence stretched. Sit, Ethan said finally. She didn't. I want this to stop, Amara said. Whatever this is. I didn't plan anything. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for your attention. And yet you have it, Ethan replied. Do you know how many people would kill for that? I don't want it, she said fiercely. I want my job back. I want my landlord to leave me alone. I want to stop being treated like a criminal for doing the right thing. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You think I'm responsible? Everything that went wrong started after your people showed up, Amara said. So yes, I do. He stood. Be careful. Why? She demanded. What are you going to do? Take more from me? His jaw tightened. You're free to go, he said again. She laughed, a broken sound. You keep saying that. Funny how free feels like a cage. That evening, Amara received a call. Ms. Daniels, the voice said, we've reviewed your rental agreement. You're in breach. I'm behind by 2 weeks. Amara said, I can pay. I just need time. You've had time, the man replied. Vacate by Friday. The call ended. Amara stared at her phone until the screen went dark. She pressed her forehead against the wall, breathing hard. Friday was 3 days away. She spent the next 2 days begging. Former employers, friends she barely had, numbers she hadn't dialed in years. Everyone had excuses. On Thursday night, she packed boxes with trembling hands. Her child watched silently. Are we moving? He asked. Yes, she whispered. Did I do something wrong? That broke her. No, she sobbed, pulling him into her arms. Never. This is not your fault. Ethan Whitmore stood outside. The knock came early Friday. Her blood ran cold. What are you doing here? She asked. I came to see for myself, he said. To see what? She demanded. How miserable my life is. Congratulations. You win. His gaze flicked to the boxes. You're being evicted. Yes, she snapped. And before you say anything, no, I'm not taking your money. I wasn't offering, he said quietly. That stung more than she expected. Then why are you here? She whispered. Because something doesn't add up, he said. You didn't benefit. You didn't ask. And yet everything you had collapsed. And, she said bitterly, that happens to people like me all the time. He met her eyes. It shouldn't. She laughed again. You don't get to decide that now. From inside the apartment, her child's voice called, Mommy? Ethan stiffened. You have a child, he said. Yes, Amara replied sharply. And he's the reason I don't have the luxury of pride. Ethan looked away. Minutes passed. I made a mistake, he said finally. Her breath caught. What? I assumed, he continued, voice low. I let my fear override facts. And, she asked, and that fear cost you, he said. I won't undo what's already happened, but I won't ignore it either. She folded her arms. I don't want your guilt. Then take accountability, he said. Let me help fix this. She shook her head. I don't trust you. You shouldn't, he admitted. That honesty surprised her. Before she could respond, one of the eviction officers cleared his throat. Ma'am, time's up. Amara closed her eyes. Ethan stepped forward. Wait. Everyone froze. He turned to Amara. This doesn't end today, he said quietly. I promise. She looked at him, anger and exhaustion tangled in her chest. It already has, she replied. As she walked past him, carrying a box with her whole life inside, Ethan Whitmore realized something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. This wasn't about control. This was about consequences. And he was running out of time to fix them. Amara spent that night on a borrowed couch. The apartment belonged to a woman she barely knew, someone from a parents' group who had hesitated before saying yes, who had said, just for a few days, okay? Like a warning. Amara nodded, even though shame burned her throat. Her child slept curled beside her, trusting her completely. She stared at the ceiling, wide awake. By morning, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered reluctantly. "Hello, Ms. Daniels," the voice said calmly. "This is Mr. Whitmore's office." Her stomach twisted. "Tell him to leave me alone." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," the man replied. "Mr. Whitmore has asked to meet with you again. Today." "No," Amara said immediately. I said no. There was a pause. "Then I'll be direct. If you don't come, the investigation continues." "What investigation?" she snapped. "I already told the truth." "Truth requires verification," the man said. "You have nothing to fear if you're innocent." She laughed bitterly. "That's what people with power always say." The line went dead. An hour later, a car waited outside. Amara held her child's hand tightly. "I'll be back," she promised a woman whose couch they borrowed. "I don't know how long." At the tower, Ethan didn't waste time. "I stopped the eviction," he said the moment she entered. Her heart leapt, then crashed. "You can't just say that like it fixes everything." "It's already done," he replied. "Your landlord will receive payment and a notice of withdrawal." "I didn't agree to that," she said sharply. "You didn't have to," Ethan replied. "It was my responsibility." She stared at him. "Responsibility for what?" "For what my actions set in motion," he said evenly. "I pushed. I pressured. I let suspicion ruin your stability." "You didn't just suspect," Amara said. "You judged." He accepted that without argument. "I want my job back too," she said. "Can you control that as well?" "Yes," he answered. She recoiled. "Then you've been watching me." "I've been tracking consequences," he corrected. Her voice shook. "You don't get to dismantle my life and rebuild like a project." "I'm not trying to own you," Ethan said. "I'm trying to correct harm." "Harm doesn't disappear because you write checks," she snapped. "No," he agreed, "but it can stop bleeding." She pressed her palms to the table, grounding herself. "What do you really want?" He hesitated. "I want to understand why someone with nothing would give without asking," he said. "And I want to ensure my grandmother is safe from people who wouldn't." "And now that you know I'm not one of those people?" she asked. "Now," he said quietly, "I don't want you destroyed by my mistake." Silence stretched. "I won't take charity," Amara said firmly. "Then don't," Ethan replied. "Take opportunity." She scoffed. "That's the same thing with a nicer word." "No," he said. "It's accountability structured as access." She shook her head. "You talk like everything is a transaction." "And you talk like survival isn't," he replied. That hit harder than she expected. Later that afternoon, Amara returned to her apartment. The eviction notice was gone. The locks worked. Her child ran through the rooms laughing like nothing had happened. She should have felt relief. Instead, dread settled in her stomach. That evening, a news headline spread online. "Billionaire's grandmother found after hours missing. Questions remain." Amara's name wasn't mentioned, but comments flooded in. Speculation, accusations, conspiracy theories. She probably wanted money. They're never innocent. Amara's hands trembled as she scrolled. Her phone rang again. It was Ethan. "Stay offline," he said. "This will pass." "It won't," Amara replied. "People like me don't get the benefit of the doubt." "I'm handling it," he said. "I don't need you to handle me," she snapped. "I need you to stop dragging me deeper." A pause. "Then tell me what you need," Ethan said. She closed her eyes. Distance. That night, someone knocked on her door. A woman stood there with a recorder. "I'm a journalist," she said. "Can you tell us what really happened with Mrs. Whitmore?" Amara slammed the door. Her child looked up at her, frightened. "Mommy?" She sank to her knees. "It's okay. It's okay." But it wasn't. The next day, Child Services called. A complaint had been filed. "Someone thinks you're unstable." The woman on the phone said gently, "We need to do a welfare check." Amara's blood ran cold. "This is because of him," she whispered. She hung up and dialed Ethan's number. He answered immediately. "This has gone too far," she said, voice shaking with fury. "They're questioning my ability to care for my child." "That wasn't me," Ethan said sharply, "But it's because of you," she cried. "Everything is." "I will fix this," he said. "You can't fix fear," she replied. "You can't fix what power does when it gets scared." When the caseworker arrived, Amara held her child close, answering every question with forced calm. After they left, she collapsed on the floor, sobbing. That night, Ethan sat alone in his office, watching the same footage again. Not the street this time. The clinic. Amara standing alone in the hallway, arms crossed, refusing to leave. Waiting, paying, protecting. For nothing, he whispered to himself. I was wrong. And for the first time, admitting it wasn't enough. The welfare check didn't end with a single visit. 2 days later, they came again. This time, they stayed longer. Amara sat rigid on the couch while the caseworker flipped through a clipboard, her tone calm but her eyes sharp. "We've received multiple reports," the woman said. "Concerns about instability, sudden housing issues, associations with high-profile individuals." Amara laughed weakly. "So being poor and knowing a rich man makes me dangerous now?" The woman didn't smile. "I'm not here to judge. I'm here to assess." "My child is fed," Amara said, her voice rising. "He goes to school. He's loved. What more do you want from me?" "Consistency," the woman replied gently. "Stability." When the door finally closed behind her, Amara's legs gave out. Her child knelt beside her. "Are they going to take me away?" The question shattered her. "No," she said fiercely, gripping his shoulders. "Never. I promise." But promises felt fragile now. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan." She ignored it. It buzzed again. She answered, her voice breaking. "Make it stop." "I'm working on it," he said urgently. "I've contacted legal counsel. The reports will be traced." "You don't trace fear," she said. "You don't trace rumors. You don't trace what people assume about someone like me." "I should have shielded you sooner," Ethan said. "You shouldn't have touched my life at all," she replied. "You should have let me disappear." "I couldn't," he said. "Why?" she demanded. "Why couldn't you let it go?" Silence. "Because my grandmother asked about you," he said finally. Amara froze. "What?" "She remembers fragments," Ethan continued. "Your name, your voice. She said you stayed when no one else did." Amara's throat tightened. "That doesn't mean anything." "It means everything," Ethan replied. "To her, and to me. I didn't do it for gratitude," Amara said. "And I don't want to be pulled into your family drama." "Too late," he said quietly. "You already were." That night, Amara packed a bag. Not to run, but to be ready. If they came again, she wouldn't be caught unprepared. The next morning, Ethan showed up unannounced. She opened the door and stared at him. "You can't keep doing this," she said, "showing up like you own the place." "I don't," he replied. "That's the problem." She stepped aside reluctantly. He looked around, taking in a modest space, the toys neatly arranged, the effort it took to make little feel like enough. "I grew up with everything," Ethan said. "And still, my grandmother disappeared because no one was paying attention." Amara folded her arms. "So this is about guilt." "Yes," he admitted, "and fear, and control, and realizing none of it mattered when she was lying on concrete and strangers walked past." She softened despite herself. "I didn't think about who she was. I just saw someone who needed help." "That's what terrifies me," Ethan said. How simple it was. He hesitated and added, "I've set up a trust, not for you, for your child, education, health care, no strings." Her eyes flashed. "Absolutely not." "It's not charity," he said quickly. "It's protection." "I don't want your protection," she snapped. "I want my life back." "And if your life collapses again tomorrow," he asked, "what then?" She had no answer. Days passed. The media storm intensified. Someone leaked Amara's name. She stopped going out. Her child stopped asking questions. One afternoon, she received a letter. Notice of hearing. Custody review. Her hand shook so badly she dropped it. She called Ethan in tears. "They're going to take him," she sobbed. "They're to take my baby." "They won't," Ethan said firmly. "I'll testify." Her breath caught. "Testify to what?" "To the truth," he said. "To what you did. To what I did wrong." "You don't put billionaires on the stand," she whispered. "They don't bleed." "I will," he said, "because I already did." The hearing was brutal. Questions sliced through her like knives. Why was she late that day? Why had she spent money she couldn't afford? Why had she been alone with the old woman? Amara answered everything. Her voice shook, but she didn't break. Then Ethan took the stand. He didn't wear a suit. He spoke plainly. "I assumed the worst," he said, "because I was afraid, and my fear caused harm." Gasps filled the room. "My grandmother is alive because this woman stopped," he continued. "Everything else happened because I didn't." The judge listened. The room held its breath. In the end, the ruling was clear. No removal. Case dismissed. Outside, Amara collapsed against a wall, crying openly. Ethan stood beside her, unsure if he was allowed to touch her. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes," he replied. "I did." She looked at him then, not as a threat, not as a savior, but as a man who had finally seen the damage his power could cause. "This doesn't make us anything," she said. "I know," he answered. "It just makes us honest." As they walked away, the city buzzed around them. The worst had passed, but the story wasn't over. Not yet. The relief didn't last. Amara felt it fading even as she buckled her child into the car outside the courthouse. Her hands were steady, her voice calm, but inside, something stayed coiled tight, like a spring that refused to relax. "You okay, Mommy?" her child asked. "Yes," she said softly. "I am now." But she knew better than to believe that peace came easily after chaos. Ethan stood a few steps away, speaking quietly into his phone. When he hung up, he turned to her. "You're safe," he said. "Legally." She shut the car door and faced him. Safe isn't the same as secure. He nodded. "I know." For a few seconds, neither of them spoke. The city moved around them. Horns, voices, footsteps, life continuing like nothing monumental had just happened. "I won't bother you again," Ethan said finally, "unless you ask." Amara studied his face, searching for the control she'd learned to fear. What she saw instead unsettled her more. Restraint. "That's new," she said quietly. "I'm learning," he replied. She hesitated, then said, "Learning doesn't erase damage." "No," he agreed. "It just decides whether it repeats." She didn't respond. She got into the car and drove away. For the first time in weeks, Amara went back to work. Not her old job. That door had closed, but a temporary one at a small grocery store. The pay was low, the hours long, but it was honest, invisible, safe, or so she thought. On her third day, a customer leaned over the counter and whispered, "You're that woman." Amara's stomach dropped. "I don't know what you mean." "The one from the news," the woman said. "The old lady." Heat rushed to Amara's face. "I just work here." The woman smiled thinly. "Must be nice. Getting noticed." After that, it happened more often. Whispers. Stares. Phones lifted just a little too high. By the end of the week, her manager pulled her aside. "This isn't working," he said apologetically. "People are uncomfortable." Amara nodded, numb. "I understand." That night, she sat on her bed, staring at her hands. She had done everything right. And still, she was paying. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan." She didn't answer. It buzzed again. She exhaled slowly and picked up. "What?" "They leaked your name again," he said. "Someone's pushing a narrative." "Of course they are," she replied flatly. "I can shut it down." "No," she said immediately. "Every time you shut something down, it gets louder." "Then tell me what to do," Ethan said, frustration edging his voice. "Nothing," she replied. "For once in your life, do nothing. Silence." "I don't know how," he admitted. "That's not my problem," she said. That weekend, Amara ran into Mrs. Whitmore for the first time since the clinic. It happened by accident. She was walking out of pharmacy when she saw the familiar fragile frame sitting on a bench, hands folded neatly in her lap. The old woman looked up and smiled. "Amara," she said. Amara stopped cold. "You remember." "Not everything," Mrs. Whitmore said, "but I remember kindness." Amara sat beside her without thinking. "You caused quite a storm," the old woman said gently. "I didn't mean to," Amara replied. "I know," she said. "My grandson means well. He just doesn't understand people who don't need power to act." Amara swallowed. "I didn't help you for him." "I know," Mrs. Whitmore repeated. "That's why I want to see you." Amara looked at her. "Why?" "Because he's afraid," the old woman said. "And fear makes him dangerous." Amara tensed. "Then why bring me into this?" "Because you don't fear him," she said simply. "And that's rare." Amara stood. "I don't want to be rare. I want to be left alone." Mrs. Whitmore nodded. "Then teach him how." That night, Ethan called again. This time, Amara answered before it rang twice. "I met your grandmother," she said. He went silent. "Is she okay?" "She's stronger than you think," Amara replied. "And smarter." A pause. "What did she say?" "That you're afraid," Amara said. He exhaled slowly. "She's right." "And that fear keeps hurting people," Amara continued. "Including me." "I know," he said. "Then stop trying to fix everything with force," she said. "You don't need to control the ending." "I've never trusted an ending I didn't design," Ethan replied. "Well," Amara said quietly, "this one isn't yours." Something shifted after that. Ethan pulled back. Not dramatically. Not publicly. He stopped showing up. Stopped calling. Stopped intervening. And for the first time, Amara breathed without flinching. Weeks passed. Then one evening, she received an envelope. No logo. No letterhead. Inside was a simple note. "I listened. If you ever need me, not power, not money, just me, I'll be here." No signature. She folded the note carefully and set it aside. For now, distance felt like peace. But fate, she was learning, didn't ask permission before circling back. Peace turned out to be fragile. Amara learned that the hard way. At first, the quiet felt like healing. No black cars. No reporters. No sudden knocks. She found work cleaning offices at night. The kind of job where no one asked questions and no one cared who you were as long as you showed up. Her child adjusted quickly. Children always did. But Amara didn't. Every unfamiliar sound made her flinch. Every unknown number tightened her chest. Survival had rewired her instincts, and trust didn't come back just because the danger stepped away. One evening, as she waited at a bus stop after work, a woman sat beside her. "You're Amara Daniels," the woman said casually. Amara stood immediately. "I don't talk to strangers." The woman smiled. "Relax. I'm not media." "Then you should know my name." "I work for a foundation," she said, handing over a card. "We support women in crisis." Amara glanced at it without taking it. "I'm not interested." "You should be," the woman replied. "Your story moved people." "My story ruined my life," Amara said. The woman studied her. "That's exactly why it matters." Amara walked away. The next day, her child came home with a flyer. "Mommy, my teacher gave this to me." It was the same foundation. Her jaw clenched. That night, Ethan called. "I told him not to approach you," he said immediately. "So you are involved." Amara snapped. "I'm not directing it," he replied. "But your case exposed gaps. People want to help." "I didn't ask to become a lesson," she said. "I know." Silence settled between them, heavier than before. "Why are you still here?" she asked quietly. "Why do you keep orbiting my life?" "Because I can't unsee you," Ethan said. "And because pretending nothing happened would be another kind of harm." "That sounds noble," Amara said. "It also sounds exhausting." "It is," he admitted. The foundation didn't stop. Neither did the attention. Someone leaked details of her custody hearing. twisted them. Online comments turned cruel. She's probably manipulating him. Women like that always play victims. One morning, Amara found the word scammer scratched into her apartment door. Her hands shook as she cleaned it off. That night, she broke. She called Ethan. "I can't do this anymore," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't ask for visibility. I didn't ask to be an example. I just wanted to help someone and go home." "I know," he said softly. "Then make them stop," she pleaded. "Not with lawyers. Not with statements. Just stop." "I can't control people," Ethan replied, "but I can change the narrative." "I don't want a narrative," she said. "I want my life." A long pause. "Then come with me," Ethan said. Her breath caught. "What?" "Not permanently," he added quickly. "Just for a while. Somewhere quiet. No press. No leaks." "That sounds like hiding," she said. "It's choosing peace," he replied. "And what do you get out of it?" she asked. "Perspective," he said honestly, "and the chance to do something right without an audience." She laughed weakly. "You don't do anything without an audience." "I'm trying to learn," he said. She didn't answer. 2 days later, a brick shattered her window. No note, no message, just fear. That night, Amara packed again. This time, she didn't tell herself it was temporary. She called Ethan. "I'll come," she said, "but on my terms." "Name them," he replied immediately. "No cameras," she said. "No staff. No control over me or my child." "Agreed." "And if this turns into another cage," she added, voice shaking, "I walk." "You always have," Ethan said quietly. They left before dawn. Not in a convoy. Not in luxury. Just a long drive to a place where the city noise faded into trees and open air. A house by the water. Simple. Quiet. Amara stepped inside cautiously. "This isn't your world," she said. "No," Ethan replied. "It's neutral ground." The first night, they barely spoke. The second night, they talked until sunrise. Not about money. Not about power. About fear. About loss. About the weight of being responsible for other people's pain. "I never learned how to stop," Ethan said quietly. "I only learned how to win." "And I never learned how to ask," Amar replied. "I only learned how to survive." Something settled between them then. Not romance. Understanding. But peace didn't last. It never did. On the third day, Ethan's phone rang. His face darkened. "What?" Amara asked. "They found us," he said. Her heart sank. "Who?" "People who don't like what your story threatens," he replied. "People who profit when kindness stays quiet." She stared at him. "I didn't sign up for war." "I know," he said, "but you stepped into something bigger than both of us." Amara looked out of the water, jaw tight. "Then this ends," she said. "One way or another." And for the first time since this began, Ethan understood something terrifying. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. The call changed everything. Ethan didn't say much after he ended it. He just stood there, phone in hand, staring out at the water like it had answers he didn't. Amara watched him carefully. She had learned to read silence better than words. "Tell me," she said. "They're donors," Ethan replied finally. "Major ones. The kind who expect loyalty when they give." "And they don't like me," Amara said flatly. "They don't like what you represent," he corrected. "A story that doesn't bend to money." She laughed without humor. "So I'm inconvenient." "Yes," he said, "and dangerous." "For helping someone," she snapped. "For stopping. For reminding people that power didn't save my grandmother," Ethan said quietly. "A stranger did." Amara crossed her arms. "So what now?" "They want you silent," he said. "Or discredited." Her stomach twisted. "And you?" "I'm done choosing comfort," Ethan said. "I'm choosing right." She searched his face. "Even if it costs you?" "Yes." That answer scared her more than the threat. The next day, the pressure came hard. Emails, calls, veiled warnings. One message stood out. "You're protecting the wrong person." Amara read it twice, then handed the phone back to Ethan. "They're trying to split us," she said. "They underestimate you," he replied. "No," she said softly. "They're counting on me being tired." She wasn't wrong. By nightfall, exhaustion pressed down on her like a weight. Fear was easier than this constant readiness, this sense that every decision could destroy what little stability she had rebuilt. That evening, Mrs. Whitmore arrived unexpectedly. Amara froze when she saw her step out of the car. "I asked her to come," Ethan said quickly. "You didn't ask me," Amara replied, tension flaring. "I know," he said, "but she insisted." The old woman moved slowly but with purpose. She took Amara's hands in hers. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "You were never meant to carry this." Amara swallowed. "Then why does it feel like I am?" "Because you chose to care," Mrs. Whitmore replied. "And care always costs." They sat together, the three of them, as the sun dipped low. "I raised my grandson to believe strength was dominance," Mrs. Whitmore said quietly. "I was wrong." Ethan looked at her, stunned. "I'm trying to fix it," she continued, "but some lessons come late." Amara listened, heart aching. "I don't want to be part of your family reckoning." "You're not," Mrs. Whitmore said. "You're a part of the consequence." Amara stiffened. "That doesn't make me feel better." "It shouldn't," the old woman replied. "Truth rarely comforts." Ethan leaned forward. "Grandmother, this isn't helping." "It is," she said firmly, "because she deserves honesty, not protection wrapped as kindness." Mrs. Whitmore turned back to Amara. "My grandson has spent his life fixing problems with money. You showed him a problem money couldn't solve." Amara's voice trembled. "I didn't ask to be a lesson." "I know," the old woman said softly, "but lessons don't ask permission." Silence fell between them, thick and heavy. Then Amara spoke. "They want me gone." "Yes," Ethan said, "or broken enough to stop speaking." "Then why hasn't it happened yet?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "Because they're waiting," Mrs. Whitmore said, "to see what you choose." Amara let out a bitter laugh. "What choice?" "You can disappear," the old woman said. "Fade quietly. Let them rewrite your story." "And the other option?" Amara asked. "You stay?" Ethan said. "You speak. You refuse to be reshaped." "And my child?" Amara snapped. "What happens to him if I become a target?" "That's the question they're counting on," Ethan replied. Amara stood abruptly. "I won't sacrifice him for principles." "No one is asking you to," Ethan said quickly. "But that's what this always becomes," she said, pacing now. "Rich people call it integrity. Poor people call it risk." Mrs. Whitmore watched her carefully. "You think silence will protect him?" Amara stopped. "It's protected him before." "And did it protect you?" the old woman asked gently. The question landed like a blow. Amara's chest tightened. "I survived." "Barely," Mrs. Whitmore said. "And survival is not safety." Ethan stood. "We can increase security, change locations, limit exposure, and turn my life into a bunker." Amara shot back. "I already lived in fear once. I won't raise my child inside it." "Then what do you want?" Ethan asked quietly. Amara's voice dropped. "I want this to end." Mrs. Whitmore nodded slowly. "Then you must finish it." That night, Amara didn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the dark water ripple under moonlight, her thoughts spiraling. Every instinct told her to run. But another voice, one she'd silenced for years, kept whispering that running was how they always won. In the early morning hours, she made her decision. She woke Ethan. "I'll speak," she said. He blinked, still half asleep. "Are you sure?" "No," she replied honestly. "But I'm done being hunted in silence." "What do you want to say?" he asked. "The truth," Amara said. "No embellishments. No hero narrative. Just what happened." "They'll tear you apart," Ethan warned. "They already tried," she said. "This time I won't flinch." The interview was scheduled fast. Too fast. Independent outlet. Live broadcast. No edits. As Amara sat in the chair, Mike clipped her shirt. Her hands shook. Ethan stood behind the camera, pale. "You can stop," he mouthed. She shook her head. When the red light turned on, the host smiled politely. "Amara, people know you as the woman who helped a stranger." But controversy followed. "Why speak now?" Amara inhaled deeply. "Because silence didn't protect me," she said, "and it won't protect anyone else." She spoke plainly about the street, about stopping, about fear, about how quickly kindness turned into suspicion. "I didn't help an old woman because she was important," Amara said. "I helped her because she was human." The host leaned forward. "And the billionaire connection?" Amara met the camera head on. "Power didn't save her. Money didn't notice her. I did." The clip went viral within hours. Not because it was polished, but because it was raw. And somewhere behind the screens, people who had depended on silence felt something crack. The backlash came fast. Too fast. By the next morning, Amara's face was everywhere. Some praised her. Some tore her apart. But something unexpected happened too. People started sharing their own stories. Stories of stopping. Stories of being ignored. Stories of kindness punished by systems designed to protect power, not people. Ethan watched it unfold from his office, his phone lighting up nonstop. Board members demanded calls. Donors threatened withdrawals. Advisors urged damage control. "This is getting out of hand," one executive snapped. "You need to distance yourself." Ethan leaned back in his chair. "From what?" "From her," the man said. "From this narrative." Ethan smiled faintly. "You mean the truth?" "That truth costs money." "Then let it," Ethan replied. Silence fell on the line. "You're choosing her over the company," the executive said slowly. Ethan's voice hardened. "I'm choosing integrity over comfort. If the company can't survive that, it doesn't deserve to." He ended the call. That afternoon, Amara received a message from the school. Not a complaint. Support. Parents volunteering help. Teachers offering flexibility. One note stood out. "You reminded my child that doing the right thing still matters." Amara pressed a hand to her chest, tears spilling freely. For the first time since this began, the fear loosened its grip. But the final test hadn't come yet. That evening, a formal statement was released. A powerful coalition publicly questioned Amara's credibility. Subtle, polished, dangerous. They didn't accuse her directly. They suggested, implied, doubted. Ethan found her standing by the window again. "They're pushing back," he said quietly. "I know," Amara replied. "I expected it. They're asking for you to retract." She turned to him. "And if I don't?" "They'll come harder." She nodded slowly. "Then I won't." He studied her. "You're not afraid anymore." "I am," she said honestly. "I just won't let it decide for me." The next day, Mrs. Whitmore asked to speak publicly. Ethan was stunned. "You don't have to." "I do," she said. "I stayed silent too long." At the press conference, cameras flashed as the old woman stepped forward, steady despite her age. "I was helped by a stranger," she said. "Not because of my name. Not because of my wealth. Because she saw me." She looked directly at the cameras. If you punish kindness because it embarrasses power, then the problem isn't the kindness. The room went quiet. The narrative collapsed. Sponsors withdrew from the smear. Apologies surfaced. The coalition retreated. Days later, life didn't magically fix itself, but it softened. Amara found stable work through people who respected her boundaries. The whispers faded. Her child laughed more. One evening, Amara and Ethan sat on the porch as the sun dipped low. "I never planned to be part of this," she said. "I know," Ethan replied. "I still don't trust power," she added. "You shouldn't," he said. "It needs watching." She looked at him. "And you?" "I'm learning to live without hiding behind it." She smiled faintly. "Good." There was no grand declaration, no fairy tale ending. Just two people changed by one moment on a street. Weeks later, Amara passed another stranger struggle with groceries. She stopped, helped, walked away. No cameras, No headlines, just humanity. And that, she realized, was the point all along. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Like the video so stories like this reach more people. Subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories that remind us why kindness still matters. And comment below, would you stop too? Because sometimes the smallest choice changes everything.